Hello everyone and welcome to the Shrine Dech Tech. My name is John and today I want to go over this deck with you and show you a game or two at the end so you can kind of just see how it works. I'm not sure this is the final build, I've been testing and tweaking, but this will allow us to see how they play and interact with each other. Um, Historically, shrines have just been enchantments without a creature time, so this does have us run into some issues because now the shrines are more soft to removal. But let's go ahead and get into the deck, starting with the first shrine, Ghost and Tie of Lost Wyndham, a 2-mana 4/4 with flying, which has at the beginning of your end step, you may pay 1, and when you do, target player mills X cards, where X is the number of shrines you control. So each shrine is going to have a keyword ability, like the blue one has the flying, but they all have the at the beginning of your end step, pay 1, and then you get some type of effect. This isn't something you can just dump a bunch of mana into, like you have 5 mana at your end step. You can't just dump the 5, have your opponent mill a bunch. You can only pay that one time. And that goes for each one. So the next one is the Ghost and Tie of Boundless Vigor, a 2-mana 1/1 with Trample, and at the beginning of your end step you pay 1, and when you do, put a +1/+1 counter on target shrine you control for each shrine you control. In our 3-drop slot, we have a 3-mana 2/2 with First Strike, and this one is you pay 1 at the beginning of your end step, and it deals X damage to a player or a planeswalker, X being the number of shrines you control. So it doesn't hit creatures, but it is your main source of direct damage. I guess one of your finisher shrines. So yeah, moving on. Speaking of removal, I guess we'll just jump into this one, a 4-mana 2/2 with Death Touch, and this one will destroy a creature with toughness less than or equal, or toughness X or less, sorry, where X is the number of shrines you control. This one here, 4-mana 1/3 with Vigilance. At the beginning of your end step, you pay 1, and you create a 1/1 spirit creature token for each shrine you control. Another way to kind of close out the game, you can come up with a board with a bunch of these spirits and just swing in and attack. So that goes for our shrines. Let's talk a little bit about, let's see, so we're talking about how they're soft to removal, which is one of the reasons I added this one here, the Gloom Shrieker, the 3-mana 2/1 with Menace, kind of like an Eternal Witness if you're familiar with that card. When it enters the battlefield, you return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If it would die, you exile it. So this is good because we are running a lot of, the shrines are legendary, right? So you don't really want a bunch in your hand. We are running 4 of most of them because really we're just trying to see how they work and everything. But I think in a final build you wouldn't want 4 of all of them. But with that said, the Gloom Shrieker is nice because it will put them back in our hand if opponent removes them, or also just maybe casting extra ones and having them drop into the battlefield for some reason. If we're in that situation, we can pull them back. Mainly it's just in here as some recursion in the deck. And moving on to removal, this is where some changes were made. I have 4 Infernal Grasps, destroy target creature, you lose 2 life, and then 2 Bloodchief's Thirst for early game removal because this deck is pretty slow. And also you can kick it and destroy a planeswalker or a bigger creature. I was running Borrowed Time 3-mana enchantment, just to kind of go with the enchantment theme and to go with another card which we'll talk about in a second. But it just seemed too slow. It seemed too clunky because this deck is slow and you want to have a extra mana at your end step to activate the shrines, so you want to have your other spells, your interactions and things like that to be a little bit cheaper, which is why going with the Bloodchief's Thirst and the Infernal Grasp, which is 1 mana cheaper than Borrowed Time. We do lose out on being able to handle things that aren't planeswalkers and aren't creatures. That's just something I feel like I need to say. But yeah, moving on from there, from the removal package, we're going to talk about the mana. But first I will start with this one here, since we were talking about the Borrowed Time. 1 mana card, a sorcery, Commune with Spirits, lets you look at the top 4 cards of your library and reveal an enchantment or a land among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest of the bottom of your library at a random order. So it does a few things for us. It helps us find our enchantments, which are the shrines. It can also help us find lands. It won't help us fix, because of course, this is a 5-color deck, so we do want to get all of our colors. This isn't the best way to do that, we can't really control what cards it hits. It doesn't let us search, but it is nice because it does help us dig a little bit, and it does help us find the shrines, which are very important to the deck. Next up, we do have Reclaim the Wastes, 1 mana sorcery. Search library for a basic land, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle. If it was kicked, you go for 2. So this one does help us actually fix our mana, and keeping on theme with keeping things cheap, because the deck can feel slow and it can feel clunky. This is just a great way in the early game or even later in the game just to make sure we get all the mana that would, being a little bit on the pricier side around here, I guess. And a bigger thing is going to be that budget mana base, which we're about to get to. But I did keep one. It's nice to have an extra way of getting the land that you need to cast your spells on time, and also it serves as a pretty nice threat. The shrines aren't very big. The biggest one we have is what, the tutus, but sure, we can grow some with this, but this still is pretty nice. It can block, it can attack. It also can help us fix our mana, and we can get it back with the Gloom Shrieker. Maybe use the ability twice, or maybe use it once and cast it later. Sometimes it comes up. So finishing up with the mana, we are running 4 Uncharted Havens. Choose a color, enters the battlefield tap, but it helps us fix. Same thing with the Shimmerdrift Veil. It's just a snow permanent, and then we have Evolving Wilds, which the land that it fetches comes in tapped. Yeah, but so we do have 12 sources of mana that do come in tapped. Another reason the deck runs slow, but it is budget. And then basic lands, it was just 1 of each with 8 forests, but since I added some extra black removal, I went up on another swamp just to kind of help us out a little bit. So yeah, that's pretty much the deck. Budget shrines are pretty much just budget by default. They're all uncommon. So very easy to build on the budget. You can keep the same build with the Infernal Grasp and the Bloodchief's Thirst and these. I think if I was to make any upgrades to make it non-budget, I would probably change out the Reclaim to Waste and replace that with Dig to kind of help us out with searching for things. Maybe we're just missing a shrine. We need that 5th one or even a 4th one. It is kind of tough to get to 5. But yeah, that's one change that I would make. Also, the mana base. That's probably what I would do first. Yeah, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into it. Hopefully I can get some good games for you so you can see them in action. And hey, if you like the content, then please give me a like and consider subscribing. I try to do at least 1 video a week, and yeah, we'll go ahead and get into it. Thank you. Okay, so my thoughts on the deck. So, a deck that needs multiple different creature types will have a few problems. Number one is consistency. You spend so much time digging and passing your turn and just waiting to draw the right shrine, and shrines are already pretty slow, so you just kind of end up behind. Um, Also, removal can really set you back. Removal can actually lose you the game sometimes. I mean, the strategy is built so heavily around having as many as you can that, yeah, removal spells just really mess you up. Another is the mana, right? So, the first thing the deck needs is to pull away from so many tap sources. The deck is heavily green based. I guess I would say Golgari at its base, so that would be a good place to start. You know, some pathways, some dual lands of multiple colors, so you can hit them with your, hopefully with your Commune with Spirits. Also, another option is Forsaken Crossroads, which doesn't always enter tapped. If you are on the draw, which you definitely need untapped mana on the draw for sure, especially with this deck, that can be pretty helpful, and you can just run that as your only tap source. Also, shrines, they just really aren't that powerful, and a lot of the times you won't even get the shrine that you need in a particular matchup. Like, this Goes into I have Lost Wisdom. It's milling the opponent for a little bit doesn't really help, because realistically what you would see is maybe you get 2 to 3 shrines out on the battlefield, so yeah, you're milling your opponent for maybe 3 a turn, something like that, but sometimes it's more beneficial to mill yourself, because maybe you can Gloom Shrieker something back. Also, sometimes maybe you'll draw your Hidden Cruelty, and that your opponent's playing control, and there's no creatures to even hit, but you got like 3 of them in your hand for some reason. So, yeah, there are those issues. Normally, shrines will have something with some life gain to kind of help keep you in the game, and I can really feel that missing with this one. Also, card draw is missing from this cycle. The deck, I do think it's fun, and I will continue to play. One card I didn't mention, one rare, is the new one, Weaver of Harmonies. I think that would be a fun addition to the deck also, but mainly just paying the 1 green and copying the effect so you can get additional. That does seem like it would ramp up the power. You still will run into some of those issues that we were talking about before with removal, but I still think that'd be a fun thing to do, and something I might try in Historic or something like that. But anyways, I do have some more budget deck ideas that aren't 5 colors, so stay tuned for that. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and have an amazing day.